Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya to serve His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Shishi Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 I'm reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 16, titled Praise of King Prithu by the Professional Reciters, Text 8. Deve Varshati Asau Devo.
Deve Varshati Asau Devo.
Naradeva Vapurhari.
Naradeva Vapurhari.
Krishna Prana Prajahyesha.
Krishna Prana Prajahyesha.
Rakshishyati Anja Shendravad.
Rakshishyati Anja Shendravad.
Maybe one person from the Prabhu and the Vaishnavis can go.
Deve avarshati asau devo.
Deve Varshati Asau Devo.
Deva vapurhari.
Naradeva Vapurhari.
Krishna prana prajahyesha.
Krishna
Shishyati anja sendravat.
Rakshishyati Anja Shendravad. Vaishnavis?
Deve Varshati Asau Devo.
Deve Varshati Asau Devo.
Naradeva Vapurhari.
Naradeva Vapurhari.
Krishna Prana Prajahyesha.
Krishna Prana Prajahyesha.
Rakshishyati Anja
Lakshishyati Anja
Sendravat.
Sendravad. Translation, word to word. Deve, when the demigod Indra, Avarshati, does not supply rains. Asau, that. Deva, Maharaj Prithu, Naradeva, of the king, Vapu, having the body, Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna Prana, suffering living entities, Praja, the citizens, he, certainly, Esha, this, Rakshishyati, will protect, Anjasa, very easily, Indravat, like King Indra. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When there is no rainfall and the citizens are in great danger due to the scarcity of water, this royal personality of Godhead will be able to supply rains exactly like the heavenly King Indra. Thus, he will very easily be able to protect the citizens from drought. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. King Prithu is very appropriately compared to the sun and the demigod Indra. King Indra of the heavenly planets is in charge of distributing water over the earth and other planetary systems. It is indicated that King Prithu would arrange for the distribution of rainfall personally if Indra failed to discharge his duty properly. Sometimes the king of heaven, Indra, would become angry at the inhabitants of the earth if they did not offer sacrifices to appease him. King Prithu, however, being an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not depend on the mercy of the heavenly king. It is foretold herein that if there would be a scarcity of rain, King Prithu would manage to counteract that deficiency by virtue of his godly powers. Such powers were also exhibited by Lord Krishna when he was present in Vrindaban. Indeed, when Indra poured incessant water on Vrindaban for 7 days, the inhabitants were protected by Krishna, who raised the Govardhan hill over their heads as a great umbrella. Thus Lord Krishna is known as Govardhandhari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Guru Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. It's interesting, this verse describes a crisis. It's a water scarcity all over the world. Maybe we have heard something about it. And I was meditating, yesterday's classes were really powerful. I think everybody would relate to that. And I was thinking, first half of the day we discussed that without crisis, there cannot be any progress. And rather, if there is growth, we'll hit a point that there will be crisis. So kind of like change my attitude towards crisis. Otherwise, it'll be a lot of, oh my God, there is a crisis, we have to run everywhere. But crisis is a good sign that you're growing as long as you deal with it. So, and then I think Sri Prahlad Prabhu also explained the point that he said, there's so many different leadership models he talked about. And then he made the point that finally the Bhagavad Gita perspective is how you get where you need to get. So in this verse we see that there is a crisis, and Maharaj Prithu, and all these verses that we have heard until now, that Maharaj Prithu is demonstrating how to deal with a crisis pretty brilliantly. One of the texts, I can't remember which exact verse in this very chapter, explains that Maharaj Prithu dealt with things so expertly that he eradicated the 3 miseries of material existence. I was like, that would be a cool king to have. Maybe that should be on the the DNC speeches or the Republican speeches, whatever it is, as they're campaigning for next year's elections. Yeah, we promise we're going to eradicate the 3 miseries of material existence. No one's going to say that. You just, so anyways, and Maharaj Prithu is doing it very easily. And I was meditating on that point, Parasa Shakti Vividha Vishruyate Swabhavika Jnana Bala Kriyascha. For Krishna, Prabhupada explains and uses this verse many times. Swabhavika, it's just natural for him. It's just play. He just naturally, easily does it. But what do? We have to struggle. Prakriti sthani karshati. We have to struggle so much for existence in this world. I was remembering as he's reading this verse that Pavarga, it is described in the Bhagavad Gita. It's explained, Parishram. You work so hard. You work so hard in this world. And then Pha is for Fema. You foam like a horse. Correct me if I'm wrong on the sequence, foam like a horse. I don't know how do you deal with animals or you run a cart, but somewhere weirdly in their mouth there's a rope, or in their nose there's a rope, and as you pull on it, they're foaming from their mouth, So we work so hard too. I don't know if you've ever foamed in your mouth while you're working. This is a lot of hard work sitting on the computer. But you Fema, there's foam from your mouth. And then that's the tragedy. Vyartha. It's completely vyartha. There's no point to it. And whatever you do is completely vyartha. And bha means bhaya. And everything that you're doing, vyartha, I have to translate it, means it's useless. There's no point to it. There's no result of that activity. And then bha, fear, bhaya. And you can see that all around the world today. Bha, everyone's fearful for the existence, fearful for protection. I mean, this whole conflict going on in Syria, and then people are saying from one side, there's going to be bloodshed, don't withdraw your troops. So much, people are so fearful. There's so much conflict. Actually, if you look at the conflict map of the world, it's gone up so high. It's as good as it was before the Second World War. It's that intense right now. But of course, we're all cool. Everything's good. Everything's going to work out well. It's American optimism, But anyways, so Vyartha, and then Ma. Last is Ma, Mrityu. So you work really hard till you foam in your mouth, and it is all useless. And then you end up fearful, and then you're dead after that. Sorry to paint a grim picture, but it is what it is. So that is what people are dealing with. Prakriti sthani karshati, and this is the struggle for existence. Srila Prabhupada defined struggle for existence so simply. I never forgot that. He said, the servant is trying to be the master. this is called struggle for existence. I was like, wow, this is insanity. If you try to do the same thing over and over again, the servant is trying to be the master. And that's our condition. Even in our services, although we are devotees, we're practicing Krishna consciousness. But, I don't think I'm at Prema Bhakti yet. So we get these mentalities and we bring them into Krishna consciousness. So people are struggling, and then what's happening at the same time? People need shelter, right? People are looking for shelter as we struggle. Where do we go for shelter in this world? We turn to the government, right? But if you look, you said no thanks.
I said Netflix.
Oh, Netflix, that's a better option. Actually, I was looking at the anxiety levels of people today. There's 3 major anxieties, not just first is existential anxiety. People have serious existential anxiety, and you'll see in statistics around the world, loneliness, it's an epidemic. And you have countries like UK that have a ministry for loneliness now. And it's a growing problem, and guess what population is hit hardest by that? You would think someone who's 75, 85 years old is hit by it. Yeah, it's true they're hit by it, but the 16 to 25, that age group, millennials, the younger population, actually Gen Z, you'll see, they're hit the most by it. Why? Because there's so many people around, so many options, nobody knows how to connect with anybody. Nobody knows who they are, nobody knows what they're looking for. People don't have relationships, they just get into situationships now, and that's it. And that's it, so you don't know how to connect. Yeah, it's a real term. You ask somebody who's like 18, 19, like relationships, who does that? You just have situation steps, or they call it association, and it's not the devotee association. We just associate and then we ghost each other. That's just the way it works.
Wow.
Ghosting means like you pass the person one fine day and it's just like the person's not standing in front of you. That's what you do. So it's situationships, if you're lucky. Otherwise, it's an association, which ends with ghosting. So, anyways, so people are feeling disconnected. So there's existential anxiety. And then you look at the world. I haven't even hit the anxiety yet that this verse talks about. Nuclear anxiety. I mean, in the land of Dharma in India, we have nuclear powers. We will show how much power we have. There is that mood all over, I don't know if I should tell you this or not. My brother's in the military, and I was, like all this bombing that goes on here and there between India and Pakistan. And he's like, yeah, we'll do this more. We are so excited. We are celebrating. We dropped like this much kgs of bombs. And I was like, oh my God, this is nuts. And there's so much, in one part of the world, people are so excited. Yay, we did this. Other part, the same madness on the other side too. You have a button, I have a bigger button. It's going on every side. It's happening here too. Someone says something in some part of the world, and another person responds from here saying, I have a bigger button with me. I'm not trying to... But this is anxiety. Do you guys remember the episode that happened in Hawaii where there was a fake alert? Someone sent a text message, there's a missile coming this way. Do what you gotta do. Well, how would you deal with it? Now I want us to meditate on this point. Are we ready to deal with what we studied about an environmental scan? And we did that, and we were told that do not think of solutions, just do a scan. So please just get that muscle rolling in the brain that got to do an environmental scan. So this is the nuclear anxiety. And then environmental anxiety. Hundreds and thousands of people are taking to the street, revolting. So like the serious environmental anxiety people have. People are saying, you don't care, that you don't care. And the leaders are saying, yeah, we don't care. We're not going to change anything. They're continuing with the policies, like look at the government. I actually wanted to read a little bit to you. I got this US military commissioned a report on climate change and its effect. So there's a report commissioned by the highest ranking officer in the Pentagon. And I have that report here completely. And I picked sections from there. Environmental anxiety, I want to talk about that a little bit. Let's see if I can get to it. Okay. Yeah, I got it. I picked sections from it. It's about a 52-page report. And I'm going to give you a little summary of it. But actually, before we even go to that report, like statistics for you, because we're talking about water crisis. Listen to this. At the current consumption rate, by 2025, 2/3 of the world's population will face water shortages. 2025, how many years ahead is that? Yeah. But it's not going to happen to America, right? It's not happening here. Hang in there. First, I'll give you global statistics and I'll show you what the government here is saying. Next one. Now, I'm reading directly from the report. According to a new US Army report, Americans could face a horrifically grim future from climate change involving, get ready, do you want to do a quiz for this at the end? Blackouts, disease, thirst, starvation, and war. The study found that the US military itself might also collapse. This could all happen over the next, how many years? Take a guess.
3 years.
4. Huh? Next year before election. 20 years. So how many? So in our lifetime, hopefully.
Because of global warming?
Yeah. This global warming is just a small problem. There's so many environments. That's like 20 years ago, the world primary environmental collapse was, global warming and stuff. Now it's way more complex. I'll come to that. One of the biggest threats, they're explaining that the whole conflict in Syria is triggered by environmental collapse. And now I'll tell you one more thing they'll say. Permanent displacement of a large portion of the population of Bangladesh would be a regional catastrophe with the potential to increase global instability, the report warns. There is a potential result of climate change complications in just one country. Globally, over 600 million people live at sea level. People live at sea level. And sea level is going to rise, I think, by around 2 meters, something like that. So those cities won't exist. And just so you know, in the United States, there are many cities like that.
Cities on the coast.
Yeah, there's just many like that. Now here's something directly, I'm quoting directly from the report. And 2 things they talked about in there. Power grid failure, which will happen in the next few years, less than 20 years we're talking about. And the other thing they talked about, water shortage, what's going to happen. So I'll read that. If the power grid infrastructure were to collapse, the United States would experience significant, and it lists down things, I'm not going to go into the detail, loss of perishable foods and medications, loss of water and wastewater distribution system. Your toilets won't flush, just so you understand. Loss of heating, air conditioning, and electrical lighting systems. Loss of computer. Now we're talking. No Facebook, no Instagram. Anyways, let's keep going. There's other things too. Telephone and communication systems, including airline flights. So it's not like you can take a flight to Mayapur at that time. Satellite networks and GPS services. Loss of public transportation systems. Loss of fuel distribution systems and fuel pipelines. Loss of all electrical systems that do not have backup power. And it gets more interesting. You thought the water problem is a small problem. Just keep listening to this. There are 99 nuclear power reactors that are at sea level. So, I'm not going to go into the detail. I don't want to scare everybody too much. By 2040, the global demand for fresh water will exceed the availability. And by 2030, 1/3 of the world's population will inhabit the water-stressed regions of North Africa, Southern Africa. It's Africa, it's not here. The Middle East, not here. Send your planes there. China, good, right? And there's another place, United States.
Oh.
It's gonna come in.
Mexico.
No, it doesn't say those countries here. This is a Pentagon report. The decline in water availability over the next 2 decades will lead to an increase in social disruption in poor and vulnerable regions. So we look at this, and then I want to read a little bit. It's like, what is going on, right? But Prabhupada talks about this. Srila Prabhupada actually talks about this in his in the books. I've got the quote here. We're looking at what the modern government is doing, right? The government is just shutting their eyes to this. We're signing out of all the environmental treaties and stuff like that. So this is what we're seeing, what modern leadership is like. And we're seeing Prabhupada will talk about it. He says, this is world, this Kali Yuga, everything. No food will be produced. Now by your talent, you're producing nice food. But producing food, it's kind of like a conversation. Tilling the ground in some way or other, by machine or by this way or that. There must be rain. So many conditions are there. I don't know if you saw, there is a whole report on cities in the United States are completely drying up. The Atlantic had a video on that. Like, what will you do if your city is next that dries up? That was what the video was called. But time will come, Srila Prabhupada is saying, when there will be no rain. Then what will you do with your tractor and machine? You will have to eat the tractor. Devotees are laughing. That's all. What will you do? There will be no rain. It is said that there will be cloud, there will be lightning. We can see very beautifully on the altar I saw yesterday, there's a cloud made and Indra with the Vajras. I was like, I've never seen that. So nice. So there will be a cloud, there will be lightning, but there will be no rainfall. This is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the result of our sinful life. In the Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that people will be so much embarrassed. One side there will be no rain, another side there will be scarcity of foodstuff. Other side, the government will simply levy taxes. So people will become mad. They'll give up their hearth and home and go to the jungle. This time will come very soon. So this is Prabhupada saying, and we can see the reports are saying the same thing. But I'll come to it, what happens, what's going on. There's a knowledge filter in play. The Shastra also talks about it. Sometimes we hear information. This is not me, social scientists are saying this. That is so overwhelming that we can't process it. So we just reject it out. We just completely reject it. It's like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Like Kante Prabhu told us the other day not to use plastic bottles and things like that. This is a little thing we can do. So I got my plastic bottle, right? Out of the way. So I spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out how to clean my water bottle yesterday because there's no thing to clean it with here. So I was like, I can't go in front of him with another plastic bottle. So I was cleaning it. So I did my bit, right? What do you want from me now? Well, that's not enough. And Krishna, now we'll look at Krishna's arrangement. In the light of the Bhagavad, Srila Prabhupada describes nature's way of how water is conserved. And it's this one paragraph. It's so nice. I picked it from the light of the Bhagavad. Water is one of the most important items for our maintenance. Because without water, we can neither produce food grains nor quench our thirst. Water is also required very liberally for many other purposes. Thus the Lord has preserved water on 3/4 of the globe and has made it salty to preserve it. And now, I don't know if you know, but there is this whole thing called geoengineering in play. This is the modern government's solution for it. If you don't have rain, you can order rain. If you probably not heard of it, huh? Geoengineering is very, very dangerous for the US government, Harvard, Stanford, these top universities, they're investing in it and they're going to start launching it. And actually some people say it's already in play. So you order planes come and they seed the clouds with different chemicals and they produce rain. So you can order rain. Today I want rain here. I don't want this. There are people in Texas, kids who are 5 years old who've never seen rain. So they want to order rain, just order it. So here Prabhupada is saying, they put the salt in the water to preserve it, right? And guess who's funding these geoengineering projects? Power companies. Like Shell, one of their ideas is, go to the gas station, right, all the time. They want to put lime in the ocean waters. Because if you put lime, according to that, must put lime everywhere, then it doesn't take, it absorbs heat from the atmosphere, does things like that, so global warming will reduce. And we can keep drilling. So that's the plan, just put some lime. It's like it's like insane. These kind of plans are there and people are actually going to launch it. US government wants to take the lead on it. So here, the Lord is keep reading it. The Lord has engaged the powerful sun to evaporate the water of planets like Earth and distill it into clear water in the clouds and then stock it on the peak of the mountains, as we stock water in overhead tanks for later distribution. Part of the stock of water is refrigerated into ice, so that it will not flood the earth for no good purpose. The ice melts gradually throughout the year, flows down through the great rivers and glides down to the sea again for preservation. But the great rivers last year did not reach the sea. It happened. Many in the United States just didn't reach. So, why is it that these things are in our face and that we can't see it? It's like two kind of ashram, and we, like I said, we're looking for shelter. And as leaders, we're thinking we're going to provide that shelter. So I'm kind of coming to the last part of it, is that Krishna says mad ashraya. He talks about it in the Bhagavad. Shelter, the word ashram, the word ashraya means shelter. So mad ashraya Krishna talks about, and then he talks about karma phal sangam, nirashraya. He talks about that, like you take shelter of karma. And we have, Prabhupada talks about this a lot. He says, deha patya kalatradeshu. He talks about this, we have faith in fallible soldiers. And you remember that part? Deha apatya kala tradishu. My body, my family, wife, you extend that concept, we take shelter of those things. And what's the last line of that word? Pashyam abhina pashyati. It is in front of your eyes. Pashyam abhina pashyati. You can't see it. So just because something is in front of our eyes, we can't see it. You need jnana chakshu to see things. But this point, see, this is, I was thinking about it, we've been honing on our target, we've been thinking about target marketing, and I'm having a real struggle with this. I've been asking questions, how do you know what your target is? But this is our target, pashyam abhina pashyati. People with that, it's giving you an insight into the psychology of someone. I was thinking about that point. That those people, there's three kinds of intelligences. First class, second class, third class. First class intelligence, you hear, word of goodness, you hear and you learn. Don't drink or don't take drugs. Okay, I'll never do that. Do you find people like this in this world today? No, right? Don't take drugs. Okay, tomorrow morning, hey, my mom said don't take drugs. Where do you find these things? And second class intelligences that, first class intelligence, second class intelligence, you can't hear, but you see someone else suffer. So you learn from that and you're not going to do it. Right? The second class intelligence. Oh, I was drinking, but then my friend died of drinking, so I'm not going to drink anymore. So, second class kind of intelligence. But then there is third class intelligence, completely in the mode of ignorance. You suffer, you see other people suffer, you see them die, but you still do not learn anything. And this is our audience. And we are coming from the same background. I don't know, I'm not saying everybody, but I talk for myself, that you suffer, but you don't see it unless something is in your face. It's like we're just optimistic. Life is going on. The malls are open. Everything is going on. There's music playing in the malls. Everything is great. There's bombing going on. There's millions of people being killed. Glaciers are melting down. People are dying of water starvation. It is happening today. 1 in 9 people today are water stressed. It's not something I'm making up. But it's not going to happen to us. This is third class intelligence. And I was thinking from a leadership perspective, because we've been studying about that, I was like, and in our preaching back home for us, like in Gita Nagari in Philadelphia, we're really meditating on this point, that people need an example of what do we have to offer to the world. When people have lost trust on the government, and you can see that on Sankirtan, that people will say all kind of things to you, like 65% of the people in this country are stressed because of government. That's the number one cause of stress for people. So people have lost that faith, but when this vacuum is created, that the government collapses, or this collapses, or that collapses, are we ready to take leadership? Are we ready? What do we have to offer? And that's the last thing I was looking at, as say, for example, New Vrindaban here. It's such an amazing preaching opportunity. Like in Philadelphia with Gita Nagari, we have Penn State, which is about the same distance as you have Carnegie Mellon here, and you have University of Pittsburgh. And I know I talked to them so many times, it's like trying to get some hope. I was like, wow, if they were closer, we could do something. These universities are so right. And then I was noticing within 30 minutes distance from New Vrindaban, you have three little towns. And if you go up to Pittsburgh, which is 1.5 hours, which is the same distance as maybe Harrisburg or something, it's a city of about 350,000 people. Great opportunity to preach and bring people here to show them. Right now in Gita Nagari, we have people coming from MIT, Penn State, New York University, Rutgers, University of Pennsylvania. There's a whole bunch. They come and they pay students. Penn State, I went and met the Dean of Sustainability and told him about it, and I put on my farmer jeans and I put on a check shirt to look like a farmer and took a basket of cheese and milk with me, and I went and met the Dean of Sustainability trying to look like a farmer. Anyways, you should see me when I see you back. Anyways, so I talked to them and I told them what we do, and I was thinking, wow, they want to listen to us, it's just like pretending to be this great person and this and that. Anyways, she was so interested that a few weeks later she came with the entire department. Wow. All the staff, they came to Gita Nagari. And when they came to Gita Nagari, they were so impressed that they set up credit courses. Now students have a part of their syllabus to go to Gita Nagari and do projects. And there's so many sustainability projects that we're doing there. So here I was thinking, I didn't even know, my last point is, this is 1,500 acres. I didn't even know we have that much space here. This is such an opportunity for preaching. And it's a gold mine, actually. I was thinking about it. Peddler's Village is a place near Philadelphia. It's about 45 acres. That's it. And 2 million people visit it every year. It's just a glorified shopping mall. But organization and intelligence has been put in there. And you can get a clock there. I went there. A clock can be like $1,000 there. Mm-hmm. People are willing to put so much money in that place. It's only 45 acres. And I was thinking, as an environmental scan, if you look at these places and see, they have nothing much to offer, just a bunch of shops, and we have so much to offer. People pay $90 an hour just to cuddle a bunch of cows. Universities invite goats on campus to try and calm people down, And it's not at all funny, but we can provide these services. But we're just sitting here thinking we got it all good. So I was thinking, as devotees, there's so much scope when you think about it. 7 years water is going to run out, you can cry, or you can actually go wow. And Krishna says it in the Bhagavad Gita, the solution is the Annad Bhavanti Bhutani. And he says, Yagyad Anna Sambhava. Yagyad Parjanyo Yagya Sambhava. He says, rain comes from Yagya. He says that rain comes from Yagya. And in the last line, Prabhupada says, the very last point, and I'll take questions after that. He says, the Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature. Yagya, specifically the Sankirtan Yagya, prescribed for this age must therefore be performed to save us at least from the scarcity of food supply. So the solution is there. Srila Prabhupada said, if you keep investing in Sankirtan, then there will be no scarcity, no center will lack funds. So I'll stop there. I know I'm a bit over time, but I'll take comments. Yes, Prabhu, you want to add, correct me? Please, corrections.
Correction?
Yeah.
Well, she was first.
It seems like we have these two sides of predictions, right? We have all these horrible things that are going to happen in Kali Yuga and they're already happening. It's been happening very quickly. But then we also know we have the gold chain for Chaitanya, right? 10,000 years. So my question is, how do these two work together simultaneously? How does that work?
That's a brilliant question. Actually, the answer I see is they do work together, completely together. I'll give you an example, a slightly different example. In New Zealand, where my god sister, my mentor is there, and they had earthquakes, so much so that the whole building swayed like that. And they knew it was coming, and they had about 50 to 80, a lot of different earthquakes. And I was freaking out. I was like, are you guys okay? This, that, and the other. You know what they were doing? They were trying to contact the city because there was a bigger earthquake coming, if they could do prasad distribution at that time. It depends on our consciousness, We're not here to develop and enhance our jiva kosha, attachment to this material world. We're not here to do that. We're here to preach. We're here to, the Vaishnava, what is that verse? In living they spread the holy name. We're here to do that. So for us, this is a gold mine of opportunity. People are willing to listen. But do we realize the gold mine we're sitting on? This palace of gold here, it is so popular. One person in our team, she's in the military, in the Army National Guard. She came here 5 years ago. She just passed by New Vrindaban, went to the Palace of Gold, got a book from there, and that's it. She didn't interact with anybody, nothing much. Came back to Philly, looked for us, found us. Till date, she is a devotee. And she, like it's just like one contact. But if we organize and put intelligence to the assets we have, look what we can do. This is just without our I'm not saying we don't try, but I'm saying without even concentrated effort that I want to get people from Philadelphia. It's an effect. So I think it's a gold mine. Prabhu, you had a point.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your courage to bring up these issues. I myself am very much occupied with these topics, and there is scientific evidence which takes us even further to what you said. It is actually going to human extinction by 2026. I personally don't think that anybody of us will be alive in 3 years. But that brings me to the point where actually I support your idea of Sankirtan is our only hope, and how it goes together with the 10,000 years and the 320,000 years of Kali Yuga. Must be some miracle happening, because from the science there is no evidence that is even possible. I'm encouraging you to keep saying it, because it's becoming more and more prominent. And before we have all these preachers in the streets saying apocalypse is here, repent your sins now, I would be very pleased to see devotees saying, we can just by prasada distribution we can reverse the effect of Kali Yuga. Prabhupada said that. And Sankirtan movement is what the yagya is what will bring rains back, and we will have rains and we will actually survive this disaster. So I encourage you to please keep courageous and name these words, actually get it out there. I hope I can give some support in that way. Especially, as I said, we have here in New Vrindaban such a wonderful opportunity. We have more than 1,500 lands of acres. We have cows, we have land. Please consider coming here and helping us to rebuild this eco-village Prabhupada wanted, where we live with Krishna land and cows simply. Because Prabhupada also said that the city will be closed.
Yeah.
You will not go to the city. Why would you preach in the city if the city is closed? You can read this in Prabhupada books. So he said, thousands of people will come and live here and seek shelter. So help us to come here and rebuild this agricultural community. We have big projects in mind, there's many helping us, but we need young people, we need leaders to help us rebuild this. So thank you very much, and keep doing it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the book section. Somebody else have a point. Prabhu, you have a point?
Was there timer?
Actually, to your point, there's another person in our team who was working in the Navy before. He was saying that the government tells the high-ranking officials in the, I'm not trying to propagate any conspiracy theories, this is all available online, that buy high-rise places in the middle of the country because there's gonna be and like you said, when the city's shut down, where will people go for food? They have to come here. So we need to have a plan for that. When there's 1,000 people at the door, what do we do? So it's really cool, exciting times. Sorry, Prabhu, I'm excited.
Please don't. If I may, I'll share a pastime that I heard. Yeah. And then I want to ask a question. It's a fond remembrance of Kirtanananda Swami that I heard from a devotee who was serving here in Vrindaban a long time ago. And Maharaj was on a radio program in the Midwest in the early 90s. And this was a huge radio program. And in the 90s, that's when radio mattered. And lots of people listened. So he was on the radio and discussing Sankirtan and the purpose and point of it. And it happened that the Midwest was experiencing a huge drought at that time. And particularly the city that radio show was based in was racked by that drought. And so the radio host challenged him. He said, so you're saying that if we all chant Hare then it's going to rain. And the devotee who told me this pastime, he remembers thinking in his head, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it, Maharaj. Don't say it. But Maharaj said, yes, that's what the Shastra says. That's what A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada came to explain to everyone. And that's what you can do, and without a doubt, you'll be taken care of. So the radio host said, okay, audience, listen up. We're all going to chant Hare Krishna right now. And so for a few minutes, they all chanted Hare Krishna. And sure enough, in like an hour and a half, there was torrential downpour in that exact state. And the radio was even, I could...
Cincinnati, I think it was.
There we go.
I heard this happened in Hyderabad too. Srila Prabhupada talks about it.
Prabhupada did.
Yeah.
So there's anecdotes like this. And what I wanted to ask you was, these efforts like you have at Gita Nagari and Prabhu and the devotees are developing here in Vrindaban, my personal feeling is that if we don't relate that faith and trust that people gain in seeing a wholesome agrarian effort to the highest mystic science of Sankirtan, Yajna, as the way to provide for all of humanity's needs, then we won't actually be able to give shelter through those projects. Whereas if we are somehow able to inculcate that faith through those demonstrations, that's the house the whole world will be able to live in. Because not everybody can fit on any one of our farms or any number of our farms that we might try to get in the next 20 years. How can we bridge that gap, which used to be a chasm, but because of projects like yours, the gap is closing. Still, how can we bridge that gap?
Quit sleeping. Don't have any brilliant answers in that, but like we gotta start somewhere. Can't be overwhelmed by the task ahead of us and not start. You gotta start somewhere with something, and then Krishna factor will kick in. You know, we have to start somewhere. We have to be organized and intelligent about it. I can give you an example by what I mean by organization and intelligence. Universities in Philadelphia, for example, I researched the websites, right? All the universities, they offer grants. If you set up even a small farm, if it's the size of your bedroom, you set up a farm like that. I measured it.
Yeah.
It's about $6,000 a semester.
Wow.
Plus, they will give you students to work on it. Try and understand, students don't have jobs. So they will be paid to come and work for you. So you don't have, it takes organization and intelligence, you know. You can have satellite farms in the city. This is nothing official, this is just my satellite farms in the city. People get a taste, bring them to the farm. Woofers, people are making, you know, we have to use intelligent programs to do that. And I guess you start there and then Krishna will give more intelligence on how to build it. That's what we're trying to do. And we had the local newspapers write about us on the front page, you know, that farm city connection. Like through our preaching centers, we're directly talking about, like when we meet people at Sankirtan, so what do you guys do? It was centered in the city, but the real thing is we have a farm. We have a farm back in the, like, really? Yeah, and it's not a farm, it's a farm sanctuary. Oh my God, they have no concept that animals can live. And then we bring them to the farm and see the people, and they choose. Some people stay in the farm, some people stay in the city and preach. Not everybody is a book distributor. I mean, everybody can distribute books, but some people want to take care of cows and stuff. Many people from the city have moved to the farm. So I don't think we've hit the limit on it. We have way more to do. But Prabhu has a point, sorry. Yes, wait a second. After him? Yeah.
So I wanted to share something with everybody is that we're actually starting a project in San Antonio with Dayananda Prabhu, who's very senior. He opened up the Los Angeles Temple.
Keep it closer to your mouth.
He opened up the Los Angeles Temple in 1970, 71. So he's written 6 books and he's working on a curriculum right now. And we're eventually going to start an academy, but the whole thing is to preach the concept of yajna through environmentalism. So if it's okay, I'd kind of like to share part of the mission statement that we have going. And if you like more information, it's called saveearthnow.info.
Save Earth Now?
Yes,
.info.
.info. So I'm just assisting him, but I'll go ahead and read it. See what I have. The Save Earth Now movement pushes for a Sankirtan-centric worldview to solve environmental disasters. Save Earth Now takes an important position in the ongoing debate regarding the human-centric versus ecocentric worldviews. As environmental problems continue around the world, movements have emerged that blame humanity's human-centric perspective. Some scholars and environmentalists blame this view of the world on the Christian West. They say that this perspective on life is the underlying cause of ecological imbalance. In addition, they advocate a shift away from human-centrism towards ecocentrism. The Save Earth Now movement agrees that there must no longer be a world that is human-centric. However, instead of one that is ecocentric, Save Earth Now pushes for a Sankirtan-centric worldview to solve environmental disasters. Some devotees are uneducated about the Vaishnava perspective on issues like climate disasters, species extinction, overexploitation of resources, excessive waste, pollution, and so on. Those problems are due to greed, which is encouraged by a human-centric worldview. Save Earth Now declares that the only means for correcting environmental problems is a Sankirtan-centric worldview instead of consuming 100% of the Earth's resources for the advantage of humans. 50% must be directed towards Sankirtan. There is a similar movement called Nature Needs Half that is an ecocentric movement. In contrast, the Save Earth Now movement insists that Sankirtan needs half. The Sankirtan needs half concept is based on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verses 10 through 13, as well as Srimad Bhagavatam 1:536 and 1:1742. So this
Thank you, Prabhu.
it's a whole detailed strategy that he's putting together. I'm just kind of helping him out. And one of the books that he has, I have a copy of it right now. It's called A Dangerous Experiment. You can find it on Amazon, and then he's got 5 others where he's systematically going to recruit people in portions. 2 weeks, I think, 2 months, 6 months, and then they dedicate 2 years to training, and then they go out and start a project and become a pillar.
I like your word, a dangerous experiment.
This is his word, not mine.
I like the word though because I was just remembering Prahlad Maharaj's point to Nrsingadev, Klesh Agni Dhyayamana, that verse, that people are burning in the suffering of material existence, and he says the solutions are worse than the problem. And in that verse there is a word that talks about dukhaushadhi, and he talks about dukhaushadhi, which means like a medicine. I know Prajananda's ear is pretty much in pain, so I've been thinking about medicine. So the word aushadhi comes in my head from that. So dukhaushadhi, and it's like, for your miseries you need a solution. We're thinking of it, and we depending on our fallible soldiers, we come up with such solutions that are actually worse than the problem. And in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada, in the 10th canto, it's explained, Bhavashadi Shotro Manobhiramat Kautam Shloka Gunanuvanat Pumam Rajete something Pashuganat. So Bhavashadi Shotro Manobhiramat, by hearing and chanting the holy name, and that's going to be the solution to entire material existence. So which is what your project is trying to do, provide the Bhavashadi for the environmental problems. It's kind of a nice whole thing. Maybe some connections.
No, actually, a very humble question.
Uh-oh.
I have noticed that we Hare Krishnas are very interesting, sometimes our approach to things in the world. And just like Christians, they constantly scare you about hell, so you surrender to Jesus. And then sometimes Hare Krishna devotees will also use similar techniques, from the Bhagavatam, sometimes from the environment, whatever suits our recruitment process. I'm just thinking from an objective perspective. On one side, we're claiming the sea levels are rising. Another side, we're claiming that there's going to be drought. So I'm just thinking that, I mean, we're trying to scare them from both sides. Not we. I mean, if that...
Happy Halloween! This is our theme.
It may seem, especially, I deal with some young people, they'll pick it up really fast that, everyone knows that fear is a major factor in moving people's consciousness and people's actions. The country spends billions of dollars because of fear.
Trillions.
So, are we doing the same thing? Question number one. And how should we use this data to make sure we don't fall into the same category? So they feel like, okay, this Hare Krishnas just, are trying to scare us so we chant the holy names. So if you could kind of address that.
There's a drought coming, start chanting right now. I wish, Prabhu, what you're saying is what I was doing. I wish I was scaring people because as a child I would like to do that, go around my class, open up my hair, just scare everybody. I just like to do that as a kid. And my teacher had to stop me. This is when I was 4 years old, 3-4 years old. I'd just go around and just scare everybody. It's kind of fun, just do that. But I wish that was the case. Yesterday, as in class, I'm just giving you an example of what I have to actually on ground reality deal with. This girl, we gave a book to many months ago, and she sent me about 6 messages. I'm in extreme anxiety. My brother committed suicide. She's born Indian origin, born and raised here, goes to an Ivy League school, is giving her GRE and preparing to get some high-ranking job. And she's like, my brother committed suicide, I'm responsible for it, my parents are not normal, this, that. People are freaking out internally. I don't have to try. My whole time I'm like, can you hold on till my class gets over and I'll call you after that? This is just somebody random. People are so miserable. They have to find someone just randomly. They can't even get up and walk out and talk to their mother or father about it. That is if you have a mother and father. Or if you know who your father and mother are. That's the reality I see on the streets. And this is not an ordinary girl. She comes from a well-to-do family and she graduated from an Ivy League school. And she's planning to go for, I'll give you another example. Another girl who comes regularly to our programs and she is doing she's doing grad school in an Ivy League school. She's preparing to join Columbia or Stanford for her PhD. And that's the caliber. But she has a therapist on the side to help her deal with anxiety. Now she finds it better to come to Mantra Lounge, it helps her more. We don't have to scare people. Most of my time goes on calming people down. What we do present to people is a solution. When they see we have solutions to offer, that's when there's like a complete opioid drug crisis in the East Coast. People are, like universities are, I was telling, I think we were having a chat over dinner table. I was saying the dean of mental health at University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League school, and before that he was the dean of mental health in Cornell. He committed suicide on the second day of the National Suicide Week. And the students don't know what to do. And this is the Ivy League school and it has the highest suicide rate in Pennsylvania, or Philadelphia at least, it does. So we don't have to scare anybody. It's already being done by other people. So we have our work chalked out. We need to present solutions. And that requires effort and organization and us questioning status quo. And I don't know how many of us are ready to question status quo. Because the status quo is pretty beautiful. So that's my answer, my humble answer. Hare Krishna. This is Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.
I guess Mangal Arati DD.
Yeah. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you, Prabhu.